You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Angle with TGI Sports Talk right here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. We're the original and hopefully only live streaming webcast here on the internet from East Greenbush, New York, near Albany. My guest today, actually, Derrick May, was born not far from here in Rochester, which we'll talk a little bit about here in a little bit. I want to thank my guest from last week, Pete Croyata, the author of From Hang Time to Prime Time. Great book, guys, on the birth, really, of the modern NBA, right from the early 70s and the ABA merger right through it becoming, a major sport again, and not just a kind of a stepchild to football and baseball. But it's a great book, great read. Please pick it up. Sunday, I'll have our live stream of consciousness show. We're going to talk NHL hockey. We got the semifinals coming up. Jim Behringer from The Last Word on Hockey will be with us. We're going to talk a lot of Major League Baseball. There's a little bit of football news, and there's even some news in the NBA with the playoffs and some major coaching awards, which I know some of my followers will not be happy about the Coach of the Year award, but we'll get into that Sunday. Good morning, Dave Guyette, and I'll say good morning before a lot of the rest of you start streaming in the room. And again, I want to thank the groups that will allow me to share this to then later. We're going to have a great time. Today, I think my guest today will be Derrick May. Derrick played long times. Had an 18-year career, I believe, 10 of those years in the major leagues. Played a little bit in Japan, had a couple of really good years there, and has been a coach at in major league systems for years and years after his playing career. And he's currently coaching in the managing in the MLB Draft League. He is coaching, sorry for missing this. He is coaching the Frederick Keys team. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But I want to welcome Derrick in this morning. Good morning, Derrick. How are you?
I'm doing good. I could be doing better, but
you could be doing better. I know. Well, I think things will turn around. I know that your Frederick Keys team is struggling a little bit, but I'm confident with a man of your experience, you can turn that situation around. So, Derrick, let me start kind of at the beginning. It's your dad played in the major leagues. Dave May, very good Major League Baseball player. I remember him when I was a kid. All-Star in 1973. But you were born in Rochester, New York, as I alluded to a minute ago, only a few hours from where we are. And I guess your dad was in the minors, AAA with the Orioles at that time. Do you have any memories of Rochester that you'd want to share with some of our locals here?
Well, not when I was younger, but and actually my brother was actually born there too, because I guess the timing of everything was pretty good. But no, I mean obviously when I was a young player, I came to Rochester. And I played at the old Silver Stadium. And then after that, I was a Baltimore Oriole player. I played in Rochester as well. So I got to see the city again. And it kind of brings back, obviously I didn't remember a whole lot as a kid, but to be in your birthplace, you kind of feel at home. So.
Well, what was it like being the son of a Major League Baseball player? You're the first guest I've had on. I've had a lot of guys from your era and even the 70s era that your dad played in. What was it like being the son of a Major League Baseball player in those days?
It was kind of looking back, it was kind of funny in a way. My mom used to tell us stories about like how we used to bring in like all our friends and he was sleeping. And they would walk up to him and he had no idea, but they would say, "Can we touch him?" Like they would want to touch him. They touch him, he wake up and he's like screaming like, "What are these kids doing in here?" But It was pretty neat. We had, we got to go to the park, the stadium, a lot, and eat all the bumble gum, and hang out with guys in the locker room like Jim Colburn, and it's just a lot of different guys that were there at that time. Johnny Briggs.
Johnny Briggs is a good player for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, so it was a good time. So we would try to do that all the time. My dad would always try to take us to the field as much as he could, and just kind of do whatever we wanted to do there. Whether it's playing underneath the stadium at Conley Stadium or whatever it was, but we'd find something to do before the game started.
Were you old enough and going to games when Henry Aaron had finished his career with the Brewers?
Yeah, well, when we got traded, that was we went to Atlanta, so I didn't get to see him, but we went, and we were there with Dusty Baker and all those guys that Dusty was actually a next door neighbor, so we used to go there to his house all the time. So it was just a nice kind of family atmosphere. Even when we got traded there, Hank Aaron's family actually, had us over for dinner, and they welcomed us. And
nice.
Well,
growing up, I mean, obviously, I think and then you can tell me better, obviously. But as I look at the numbers, and numbers only tell you so much, obviously, but it seems like your dad and you had your game was similar in styles. I know eras are different, obviously, but when you just look at numbers and such, they seem like you guys had a similar type game. Do you feel the same way?
No, I think he probably had a little bit more power than I did, but he was an aggressive hitter. I was an aggressive hitter. Both outfielders, and then we kind of towards the end we went to the pinch hit DH role and stuff like that. But no, he definitely had a better career.
Well, your career was not bad. You had a really good year in '93, which we'll get to. But so as you're growing up, you're the son of Dave May, Major League Baseball player. Are you realizing that you may have a chance to be a major leaguer yourself at some point in time as you're, going through your formative years?
When I was playing, you mean like when I?
When you're in high school, and let's just say as you were, getting towards before you were drafted.
Yeah, well, probably about 15. It's 14 or 15. I started to get a lot of scouts kind of asking and coming around, and so I knew that I had an opportunity. I might have an opportunity to kind of follow in that direction.
Yeah.
So
well, you obviously must have been a very good athlete, because you also got, I believe you had a scholarship to Virginia Tech for baseball and football, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep, I had actually 4 different visits. I had one to Notre Dame, Penn State, North Carolina, and Virginia Tech.
All for football.
For football, and I wanted to play baseball too, but they wouldn't let you at the time like your freshman year. But Virginia Tech did. So.
Well, those are some pretty good football schools, so it isn't like you're chopped liver, obviously, coming out. You get drafted number 1. Did you have any? Was it a tough decision to go pro at that time and not go to school?
No, I basically, when I was going to those schools too, they said, I'll sign if I'm like not in the first 3 rounds.
Okay.
So I basically just kind of said, hey, if I'm in those first 3 rounds, I'm not going to sign, not gonna come. So they all agreed to that, and that was fine. So that kind of, when I was picked first, it was pretty easy.
Yeah. Was that a surprise at all, or were you expecting to go fairly high?
No, I was getting kind of updates from scouts and stuff like that. So I kind of, closer to the draft, I kind of knew I was what round. It was just more of what number what pick was going to be. So.
Did you have a preference? Were you happy where you ended up? I mean, who did you root for as a team? When you were a kid, I guess, who was your team?
I really didn't have one, but I did watch a lot of the Mets because of WOR.
Okay.
And then, but I watched Phillies, and and I had to watch the Orioles. We're actually in a unique area where we had we had those three teams that were in that area.
Yeah.
And we got to watch kind of all of them. But I would say it's kind of was a progression. Like in my earlier years was more the Orioles, then I went to the Phillies, and then I went to like Darryl Strawberry and the Mets and Doc Good, those guys, because that was kind of my time when I was coming up and getting ready to get drafted and stuff like that.
Well, they were a pretty good team, obviously, to follow at that point too. So
Yeah,
both on and off the field, right?
Yeah.
There was a lot going on there.
Yeah.
So you get drafted by Chicago, and you move through the farm system fairly quickly. And the Cubs had some good players at that time, and obviously in Sandberg and Maddox and Grace. In fact, they won the East Division the year before you came up.
Yeah.
Was it a tough adjustment for you for the big leagues? Do you feel like you were ready at that point in time?
It was an adjustment. At that time, the first time I got called, I thought I was ready, but then I realized, I had some things I had to work on, so then they then got George Bell, and so I went back to my worked on some things and got a little better at that, and got called up again, and then '92 is actually when I started to come out and started to play a little bit better and stay in the big leagues.
My obligatory good morning from my dad. So good morning, Derrick, from my dad.
Okay.
My number one fan.
Right.
Those teams were, like as I said, they came off of division championships with still a lot of talent, but they didn't repeat, and they started to regress pretty quickly. In fact, Don Zimmer got fired, I think, in '90 in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
What went wrong there? I mean, I know you weren't on those teams a lot in the first couple of years, in 90, 91, but why didn't they do better for an extended period of time with some of the players that were there?
Well, that's a good question. Like I said, I was a young player. I just think that there was in '89 they were a talented team, but I think other teams got better, and I think that maybe that there was some guys that weren't brought back. I'm not really sure, but I can't remember. But
Yeah,
I think kind of that type of thing. The injuries always play a big part.
Sure. It's hard to stay consistent. It always has been hard, I guess, to stay consistent in Major League Baseball, unless you're the Yankees way back in the day, or the Orioles in the '70s. And we don't see those. Well, I guess we do see some of those types of teams today, but not winning World Series year after year for sure, like the Yankees did 100 years ago.
Right.
When you get to the major leagues to stay, which I guess would have been about '92, who are the influences on you that really helped you improve your game or motivated you to improve your game?
Probably my manager was Jim Lefebvre. He talked about hitting a lot, and he helped me a lot with that too. And I probably should give him a whole lot more credit than he probably gets. But and then he also, gave me an opportunity, to play, and but he was one of them. Definitely, guys in the clubhouse were guys that I thought helped motivate me too. Was like a Dwight Smith, very positive. Jerome Walton, all those guys were very positive guys, even though we were kind of in the same position, but they still were they were good teammates and kind of stood behind me. And Sammy was another one. He got traded over there when George Bell traded. We were kind of together, and tried to do is, do whatever we could to get better. Even hit, we go and hit, together. We do everything pretty much, and just kind of work on whatever we need to work on.
Do you have an opinion on Sammy since you bring him up, as far as his career and the progress that it made? I mean, obviously he was a great player, and we all know the controversies that surround Sammy, but should he be in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I'm going to pass on that.
You pass on that one?
But for me, like I know the person he was, and I know the hard work that he put into it.
Yeah.
Obviously there were things that he did that kind of helped him along with that. But I just know that when I was, that he worked hard. I mean, and I'm not gonna, there's tons of guys who did it, but I'm not gonna say whether he should or shouldn't.
Yeah. It's funny because I think the one thing that gets lost in the whole steroid controversies and performance enhancing drug controversies is that these guys, I mean, they didn't just take stuff and they magically became superstars, right? They had some talent. They worked hard.
Yeah.
And this is just another piece of it. I don't think it's not a black and white situation to me. There's a lot of gray in there. So
right.
I say they should be in, and that's part of their legacy, and put them in. That's just my opinion. But
all right.
Another guy you played with on when you first came up, who is a Hall of Famer, is Andre Dawson.
Yes.
Near the end of his career, what kind of influence was he, and what kind of person was he to be around early in your career?
Yeah, he was a huge influence. I wish I probably listened to him a little bit more. He was just. I mean, like when I first got called up, I lived with him for like a month and a half, I think it was, and we'd go to the park. I'd go with him, obviously every day to the park at the same time, and he was just a positive influence. His whole family was, to tell you the truth, but just the way he works, and even just watching the pain he went through, like every single day, and like it was just like it was routine for him. But I know anybody else probably would be tough for him. But
yeah, all those years I think on that concrete in Montreal took its toll on his legs, right? And how good his career numbers would have been if he played, more than half his.
Yeah.
Probably more than half his career, he wasn't 100%, I would think. So
yeah, and he'd get those. I mean, he'd get the shots, and he'd drain his knees, and he's out there still playing again. It's like you're going, wow, like how many people would, could actually go through this and actually still perform, at the level he did.
So those Cubs teams, which obviously you were a much bigger part of, and Jim Lefebvre was the manager for a good part of your time. In Chicago, and then I think one of your minor league managers managed at one point, Jim Essian, maybe on an interim level basis. But what held those teams back? Do you think from being better? Since you were closer to those teams, what was missing to be able to get over the top?
I don't know. I just think it was hard to have stability and stuff like that. We didn't. I mean, we went through. Like 3 different managers, might have been 4 different managers, because even that Treblehorn was a manager my last year. And so then we had like, I don't know, 3 different general managers. I mean, it was really a tough situation. I think that we were young, we were trying to rebuild. Then, at that time in '93, I think Greg Maddux went to the Braves, and Hawk went to the Boston, I think. So it was like, it was just tough. And Sandberg was, I'm not sure whether when he retired, but he was going at one point he did, and but there was just a lot of stuff going on. I just think that our pitching staff was kind of diminished after like I said, Maddox left, and we were just trying to rebuild, and it was kind of hard to do both in Chicago, rebuild and win at the same time, and you can't when you don't have key guys there for you.
Well, you were pretty consistent, through those. I mean, the batting average was always, pretty good batting average for that time specifically. And then in '93, you had your best. I believe it was '93. You had your best year yourself. What did something click at that point in time, or was it more playing time? As simple as more playing time, or was it something else there?
Yeah, I think it was definitely more playing time, comfortability, I guess, and I was pretty comfortable with things and how things kind of work and being in a routine and stuff like that. I just felt like I was like kind of coming into my own that year, and then the following year obviously happened.
Yeah.
And I thought I was doing pretty good there, and then I was really looking forward to the second half, and we never really got to do that. So it was.
I take it you were disappointed to leave your organization for Milwaukee at that time.
Yeah, well, I was disappointed at the strike. For one, is that we
Right.
never got to really finish it, and we never came back. And then after that, it was a non-tender that maybe I probably wouldn't have had if it wasn't for the strike. So it was one of those things that it helped the union, but it kind of hurt certain players, at the same time. So.
Yeah, that's the problem with those things. I mean, the players who are more established and making a lot of money already are certainly in a better position for a strike than a young guy like yourself who's still trying to establish himself. So, and it hurts the game. I mean, I understand they got to do what they got to do, right? But
absolutely,
it always hurts the game, and it takes a while to come back.
Yep.
So you ended up, so you moved around a little bit after you played with some, we were talking about, Chicago, and why they may not have gotten over the hump. You played with some pretty good players in Houston as well. And those teams,
it's kind of funny. Yeah. You look back, I'm like looking at all the players that I played with. I mean, they're some pretty good players.
A lot. Yeah.
A couple Hall of Fame, like, man, I would say, I forgot how many Hall of Famers I counted, but it was a lot. It was, Biggio and Bagwell are guys who were unbelievable there. Not to mention like guys like Mike Hampton, and even Derrick Carl at that time. He was there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Billy Wagner was another guy there. He was a young kid when he came up, and then just think about the Dave Magadins and Craig Shipley's and Tony Eusebios. They had some Derek Bells. Yeah.
Yeah. Besides the Hall of Famers, you had some really good Major League Baseball players. So, I'm just thinking off the top of my head that you had to have played at least with 6 major Hall of Famers in your career, 6 or 7 maybe.
Yeah.
Think back. Because you got Sandberg, you got Dawson, you got Biggio and Bagwell.
Maddox.
Oh, right. Maddox, Ripken.
Yeah, Vladimir Guerrero.
Yeah, you played with some pretty good players, man.
Yeah, I did. I got to see that in person, so yeah, they were pretty good players.
What about managers? Actually, I was going to bring up this question here at some point. Anyway, and Dave Guyette's asking who was your favorite manager? Was it Jim Lefevre or was there somebody else? Because you played for some pretty good managers as well, and Terry Francona and Felipe Alou.
Yeah. So yeah, my favorite manager probably was Terry Collins. Yeah,
really.
Yeah, at that time. Yeah, and the reason I say that is because he was so upfront with me. He was honest. He was upfront, and he'd let you know exactly what you're gonna do or what you're not gonna do. So it was just more of those things that I think a player appreciates more is that when a manager or a coach is going to tell you the truth, and I think that's probably what I like the most about it. And plus, he's really good BP.
Well, that always helps too. Yes, that's a plus. It's funny. I wouldn't have thought you'd say Terry Collins. I'm not sure why. I know that early in his career, he had a reputation for
Yeah.
I'm not sure what his reputation was, but he seemed to wear out his welcome, and with the Astros and the Angels. I mean, they had good teams that just never quite got to the top, but I thought he was a good manager, and it seemed like he had, something was keeping him from sticking around longer. But
no, but he was honest. I'm gonna tell you, sometimes honesty isn't people.
Well, that might be the problem. You want to hear honesty, not everybody does, right? So, what about? I got a question here too about Joe Girardi. You played with Joe Girardi.
Yep. Absolutely.
And did you see the potential manager in Joe Girardi at that time?
Yeah, you could see a potential manager, kind of potential anything. He could probably do whatever he wanted. He was a smart guy, So, yeah, you could see that. Obviously, he knew how to work a pitching staff, and he knew that, and he was good with people, and he could probably do pretty much whatever he wanted.
So you moved around a lot, in your career. You spent a lot of time in different minor league cities and different major league cities. I mean, you've got to be what we would call, obviously, at least in the old days, an old guy like me, a baseball lifer.
Right.
Because you kept playing. I mean, again, you didn't have an all-star career. You were a productive player in most of the places that you were, for sure. What kept you coming back? Was it competition, the competitive part of the game, or was there something else?
No, I was. I mean, I think it was the competitive part, and I really liked playing baseball, and that's kind of what I did, So, and that's what I wanted to do. So that was probably it. So I've been around baseball my whole life, and so that was kind of keep playing until they take it off, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you kept playing it long enough to get over to Japan, where you had a couple of really, really good years as well. What was it like playing there? I had Roy White on, and we talked about it, and he actually loved it. Did you too?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a great experience, not only for myself, for my family, but
he said the same thing.
Yeah, it was just an awesome experience, and they love baseball. I mean, it's so fun. It's so fanatical. We like where I played is I didn't have a car, so I always used to get on the subway and go to the go to the park. And so whenever you get off the subway, it's like you get all these fans or want to sign your autograph, have you sign an autograph or something like that. And then when you come back, it's really packed, especially if you hit a few home runs. So,
what was the difference between Japanese baseball and the Major League Baseball? Is it that big a difference as we would think it is?
I wouldn't say it is. I think they're really big into a lot of the fundamentals. So they're going to be practicing a whole lot. They're going to they're just going to be paying attention to a lot of the smaller details of things. I think they're trying to change a little bit as far as like analytics. They're trying to change that. They're trying to be more into that. But for the most part, they still believe in that hard work, and they believe in, making sure that you practice and get better and, all that stuff that's, I'm not saying that's different. It's kind of lost a little bit here because we want to make sure that we're preserving guys.
Yeah.
But they still believe in that working, and they like the 7-man rotations, and
that's interesting.
But it's a good place to play.
At that point in time, there's still only been a handful of players from Japan that had come here to play, and obviously that's grown a lot over the years. Were there guys that you played with that you thought could have played in the major leagues?
Yeah, absolutely. I think though too is like they get paid a lot of money there too.
Yeah,
and it's like when you play there, they work. I mean, they're kind of part of that company. It's like they work there for life most of the time. So it's like a lot of them kind of have to decide whether they want to do that and leave. And then I think it's a little bit easier. It's hard. I would say this is like it's easier now because there's no posting system.
Yeah,
but guys don't want to. They don't think guys want to do that because I think they like to staying at home.
What So you hang it up there, and was it a coaching offer? I know. Well, I guess you had a gap there of maybe a year between your playing career and your coaching career. But did you know while you were playing that coaching was something or managing was something that you wanted to do when you were done?
Yeah. Before I went to Japan, I was thinking about that, and then I got an offer to go to Japan, so I went there, played there 3 years. But then I came back, and I kind of sat around wondering, what I should be doing, and then I decided to, basically start to look for a job in baseball. And so I kind of sent out my resume and stuff like that to teams, and then Dallas Green calls me and asks me, says, "Hey, Derrick, what do you want to do? You want to be on the field, or you want to be, um, you know, in the stands, basically as a scout?" But so I said, I really don't know. I mean, I really didn't know which was good for me. I knew I liked being on the field as a player, but kind of different, after you're done. So he said, "Why don't we do this? You get 3 days, put you 3 days in Lakewood, New Jersey, and then let's say then you have 3 days in as a scout." So I said, "Okay, that sounds perfect." So I go to 3 days in Lakewood, and I liked it. I mean, I liked the whole, sitting there watching the games and talking to players and stuff like that. And one of the guys there was a guy named Michael Bourne, which was a young player
I
then.
remember Michael Bourne, yeah.
Yeah, A-ball player, and then he played like 10, 12 years in the big leagues, whatever it was. And then, so then I did that, and then I went to scout and went around in Maryland for, the scout there. And then it was like my first game I went to, I saw this pitcher, and he's just like, I mean, easy 95, high school pitcher. I'm going like nobody could touch him. And so then the guys, I said, "What's his name?" He said, "His name is Nick Aidenhart." And so one of the first people I see, like Nick Aidenhart, who's like, would have been number one pick, or was a number one pick, but he got hurt. And then tragically, he passed away.
Yeah.
But,
What? So you had some pretty good success, as you started to move through the minor leagues, in the A League and the Double A before you became a hitting coach. Did you have aspirations to be a manager in the major leagues at some point, or maybe you still do?
I think it's changed. Like before, when I first started, I wanted to focus on being a hitting coach.
Mm-hmm.
And doing that because I mean I just didn't think I could think both at once. I wanted to make sure that I was, being a good hitting coach and for the players and for for myself. But I think as I kind of progressed, and then obviously I already I was a hitting coach and coordinator and all that stuff for like 13 years. I said, you know what, the draft league was a good opportunity for me to do something different and maybe, manage. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do and kind of go on this side of it. And I believe that I like it.
Yeah.
I think I like it a whole lot. And I think that's something that I would probably want to pursue, if there's an opportunity.
Well, we talked about you. I'll jump around a little bit here because Carlos, who's another one of my number one fans, is very good at throwing a ton of comments up here. It's hard for me to keep up with all of them, but we talked a little bit about the summer. He's talking about the summer league and how competitive it is.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that and a little bit about the Major League Baseball draft league right now.
Yeah. So Major League Draft League, we have like a bunch of college guys, some high school guys, from everywhere from Division I to JUCO, and like I said, high school players. But it is competitive. With that, we have a lot of technology around. We have all that stuff that can give you all the data that you want. We have a lot of scouts around, but as far as competitively, yeah, it's probably just as competitive as anywhere, I would believe, because of the talent that's here. I mean, we're still getting guys from the regionals who were, eliminated and stuff like that. So we're still getting players like that. But the draft league is more of getting guys who are draft eligible, maybe that they want to improve their stock or, improve their standing in the draft. And if not, hopefully they come back and they're free agents and they can sign with a major league team.
Yeah, I know it's only been a short time, 12 games in, but I mean, are you seeing guys around this league on your own team or elsewhere that, we'll be hearing about someday in the major leagues?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a number of scouting directors that call it like almost every day of one kid that we have. And he's 18 years old, out of Arizona. He's throwing 97 from the left side with a power sink and low rotation, which means it's a heavy ball. So
yeah,
that's one of the things I think he's going to be pretty high pick, So that's one that people are seeing. So you see that a lot of guys like that around here in this league, and hopefully we'll get a few more. Hopefully they're on my team pitching.
yes. I hope a few of those guys end up on your team anyway.
Yeah. So
actually, Carlos is now asking, I don't know if he wants a tryout or not, but how can he get a tryout in that league? I think he's going to direct message you, but
that's a good question. I mean, it's like it's not really a tryout. They usually have they usually get recommended from a scouting director, major league scouting director, or scout, or the head coach of the university or wherever. But and they're also the PBR scouts actually go and find them and put them the analytics in and see if they're compatible for the league.
Excellent. Here's a really good question, actually, from Dave Guyette. What was a bigger challenge for you, playing or coaching?
Interesting. Yeah, no, it definitely was a challenge as a coach because you have to try to get to know different personalities as players, and before you only have to worry about yourself, but you have to worry about 12, 15 other guys, and how they work and how they go about their business, and sometimes they're up and down and just feel in different ways. So you have to you got to try to figure that out and try to make sure that everybody's kind of compatible and getting along. So
do you see this Major League Draft League catching hold and growing now with the situation between the major leagues and the contraction, the minor leagues that we chatted out before we went live?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think that there's an opportunity, obviously, to have a few more teams here and actually have a bigger, I guess, a broader stretch throughout this league, I guess, throughout the East Coast. But obviously, there's more. I think it can be a lot more teams added and players, and I think it'll be very helpful for young guys and young players to play in this league, especially as far as scouts seeing them and also maybe college scouts and stuff like that. But obviously with other cities, bringing baseball back to different cities that were lost because of the contraction by Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I think it's a little unique in the sense that we talked before that there's been collegiate leagues around forever, right? Cape Cod League you mentioned about before, which I think was are you guys a wooden bat league or?
Yes,
you are. Okay.
Yeah, we're a wooden bat.
Yeah. And then there's a few, like I said, but they tend to be more regional. We talked about the one that's here up in upstate New York, but yours is up and down so far the East Coast, the entire East Coast, basically. You see that expanding off the East Coast or kind of more teams added in the same region?
Well, yeah, I mean that's it. I can see that happening, and obviously that's something that maybe they might want to talk about. But I can see that happening because obviously there's so many parks in the United States that were lost that they can probably make different teams in different leagues in different
Yeah.
areas, and I think that players want to play, and people want to see talent, and so there's always some place for that, and I think there's room for it.
Yeah, there's a lot of good players out there that don't want to give up their dream, and and a lot of them get found this way, where they may not have before. You mentioned Jacob deGrom before we came on the air.
Absolutely.
About how he may not have ever made it to the major leagues without the minor league position change.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with all the contraction and all this the cutting of rounds and stuff like that. You could potentially lose guys like a Jacob deGrom, who was a position player who couldn't hit in college, but he had a great arm, and it was probably a position change. And how many people are gonna take that chance on a guy like that now? So it's just one of those things that I bring up a lot of guys like within the Cardinal organization that probably wouldn't have. May not have been looked at now, with the way things are. If you had a Matt Carpenter who could hit, but his bat, he wasn't physically at that time. Yeah. He was our 13th round pick, and no, Pujols was the 13th round pick.
Right.
Another one. So you kind of you're missing out on some guys that maybe could be potential superstars.
You bring up Pujols and Carpenter, great examples for what you're talking about, by the way, especially Carpenter. Well, I guess Pujols too, but Carpenter, he worked his way into being a really, really good Major League Baseball player. There's a question before about, the best hitter you played with, but you played with so many Hall of Famers, it's got to be impossible to pick a guy. I'm going to spin that question a little bit because hitting coach was, been the thing that you really focused on most during your coaching career. Who's the best hitter that you coached?
I mean, I've coached a lot, but I would say probably Matt Carpenter turned into one of the best hitters I coached. So
yeah, I guess I probably misphrased it. What I really want to say, who do you feel you had the most influence on, and maybe it'll be the same answer there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. So that's the thing with I don't know. I would hope that I had influence.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
So, well, you did it for a long time. You got to believe you had some success.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't really say one of them, but so I would say, yeah. I mean, those guys were I mean, those whole teams that I probably were with, I think I had some influence in.
Yeah. Let's have real quick before we get done today. I want to get on one of my pet peeves, and you obviously having played, a few years ago now. I don't want to make you too old. You're certainly younger than I am, so you're in good shape there. One of my pet peeves, and you as a hitting coach, I want to speak to about this. We talk about the. Obviously it's a big topic today with the lack of offense and the ball and this and that. And I am a big believer that it's not as much the ball as it's just the approach that the players have at the plate today, hitting into shifts, hitting for home run. What are your thoughts on the game today and the approach players are taking? This all or nothing approach.
Yeah, that's what it's gonna be, all or nothing. And that's the thing is for me, hitting is about adjustability. You know what I mean? So when you hit, you have to be able to make certain adjustments, and kind of with the approach that they're doing now, there's really no adjustability to what they're doing or what their swing is doing. So if a pitch is in a certain location, they may be able to hit it, but if a pitcher elevates it, has a little movement on it, basically has a little bit of velocity, they can't adjust to those things. And so to me, that's not really a great swing to have. It's not built for longevity.
Right.
The ones that are built for longevity is the one that can account for location, velocity, movement. Those are the ones that are more of the traditional swings that are, attacking the baseball, can make consistent contact, and obviously drive the ball out of the park too. So I'm not
Yeah,
for I'm not for the launch angle swings. Put it that way.
yeah. I mean, if you were, and again, I don't want to ask you a question that you feel on the spot to answer and hinder future employment for Derrick May for sure. But if you were in major leagues today as a major league hitting coach, I mean, would you have an issue with organizations being okay with the high strikeout rates and home runs and guys not caring about just hitting in the teeth of a shift and not teaching guys better fundamental situational hitting and things like that?
No, I mean, and one thing is that you have to try to figure out what they're trying to accomplish, right? So I would want to know what they were trying to accomplish with what they're doing. So it's like, are you trying to create more runs, like run scoring opportunities? Are you trying to, are you just trying to hit more home runs for whatever reason, or you want to strike out more times than you get hits? Kind of. So I would want to try to find out which one do you think is going to be more productive, and which one, be more consistent. And I don't know if I think teams are kind of reevaluating kind of what's being taught, and so I'm kind of waiting for that part of it.
Yeah.
But I think that you still have to. There's certain people, certain guys that are still trying to do it, and you have to kind of understand what they're doing, and also but try to convince them that being efficient is more productive than being that all or nothing type of swing.
Yeah, I think Carlos obviously thinks my question's unfair because players don't know how to adjust, but it's way too hard to make. I'm not sure what he's trying to say there, but I look at, I mean, they need to be coached up to make that change. And if it wasn't acceptable to continue your approach, players would change their approach, right? So
right, it has to be accepted and then if people accept it, then they'll just keep doing it. But if it's not, if somebody actually understands kind of what's more productive and what's not, then yeah, it'll change. But until then, it won't. He's right.
listen, I'm going to start a campaign for Derrick May to be the next hitting coach of the New York Yankees. Just so I don't know how my grassroots campaign will do, but I'll see what I can do for you. Well, here's a good point. I mean, players should watch Tony Gwynn and Sheffield and Martinez and Ichiro, right? I mean,
100%.
Exactly.
Those are great players.
Yeah.
And that's what you try to tell people, that watch what they do, but it's not what they're seeing. That they're seeing is, or what they're trying to do is they're seeing the end of their swing and they think it's finishing up, and that they're swinging up, and they're not. They're just getting through the baseball and finishing their swing. But it's just kind of, everything's been kind of confused and kind of just it's just everything's been kind of I guess whatever the language is it's being twisted, and it's not it's not really what should be taught.
I personally, I think the game will change eventually. There's always cycles, right? And people are going to learn one day that this just is counterproductive, hitting the shifts and striking out.
I do think that there will be an era. It's going to be called the launch angle era.
Yeah.
And it's going to go away.
Yeah.
So that's what I just think. I think there was a time where, guys thought that swinging up was going to be productive, and the strikeouts were going to have more strikeouts than hits and stuff like that. But then it's going to go back to what baseball normally was, hopefully. But it's going to change, obviously, because analytics and stuff like that helps it. But it's going to change as far as that's concerned. But I think the launch angle part of it is definitely going to go away.
Well, I hope I live to see it myself. Here's another plug for you. Dave Guyette thinks we should not have you as the hitting coach. We should have you manage the Yankees. Maybe. Aaron Boone's taking it rough here in New York right now, by the way.
I know.
How about, before I let you go, any do you keep in touch with any of your former players? Are you still tight with some guys that you hang with, or?
Yeah, I mean, I call Mike Harkey a lot of the time. He's well, every
Former
night.
Yankee
We're not
coach?
busy. Yeah, well, we're not busy. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, he's one of them. And another guy, my ex-roommate back in the days, like Brian Gwynn, he played AAA with me, and Racino Hill, which is his son is Derrick Hill, who plays for Detroit. So it's pretty neat. But yeah, I do keep in touch with some of the guys.
Well, look, I think you had a really productive career. Your dad had a really productive career. The list grows about, multi-generational players in the major leagues, but it's still considering the number of players that have played in the major leagues in 125 years, I can't do math that quickly, but it's still a pretty small list of guys. So yeah. I think it's an accomplishment you should be proud of. You and your dad are both members of the Delaware Sports Hall of Fame. Well, congratulations on that. Those are no small accomplishments. And somebody like yourself, again, when I have guys like yourself who aren't looking, I'm not getting Nolan Ryan on the show here, but you guys are kind enough to come on. And I also believe that it's the Derrick Mays and some of the other guys that I've had that weren't necessarily the Hall of Famers, but they're big, important parts of what make these successful teams go. And you've continued to contribute after your career, which I think is important. And I do hope guys like Derrick May continue to have an influence so that we can get out of this launch angle era to some semblance of the baseball I grew up with. So,
yeah.
So I thank you for coming on today, Derrick. I wish you luck with the Frederick Keys team, and maybe you get a couple of get some influx of these guys that are now getting through with their college seasons. You're only 8 games out of first, from where I can see.
That's a good way to look at it.
You got plenty of time to make that up. So I'm gonna follow it. Hey, you guys have a website. You got wearables? You sell wearables?
I don't know. I guess we.
You don't know. You're not in the marketing department, apparently. Obviously, managing the team. So, I try to get wearables, hats or pullovers or something from all the guys.
Yeah, they definitely got those.
I'll check it out. I was on the website earlier, but I didn't look at that part of it. So,
okay.
So listen, I wish you luck. I appreciate you getting up early and being on the show, and good luck with your series this weekend, and best of luck going forward, Derrick.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being on. Bye-bye. Derrick May, former Major League Baseball player, guys, played with the Cubs, the Brewers, the Astros, the Phillies, the Expos, the Orioles, played in Japan. Again, very productive Major League Baseball player, has given more to the game, maybe even afterwards as a coach. Gosh, now for, I want to say 11 years. Where's, let me see if I can find his numbers here. We got a few minutes here, so we'll talk about a couple of things before we go. Oop, I didn't go away. Got the wrong mouse again. Derrick's been coaching since 2005, basically, maybe even a little bit before that, based on what he said was his relationship with Dallas Green. And he continues to coach. So here, 16 years later, he's still contributing to the game as a baseball lifer. And I hope he finds his way back to the majors, because I think his approach to the game is what we need today, and more guys like him. Definitely was a good player, for sure. That, Carlos, these are guys we talk. You and I, if he needs a shortstop, let me know. Send him you're going to need that recommendation, Carlos, but send him some film. Yeah, I think that. Thanks for keeping it real. I think Derrick did keep it real. Great job by Derrick. I think guys like Derrick, if some of these guys can find their way back to influential positions, maybe even in the minor leagues, guys, because, and maybe that's to Carlos's point earlier, that maybe I was being unfair to the major leaguers, because the problem is that this is the approach that they're taught from the time they start making their way to the major leagues. Who knows? I don't know how far it's gone. I haven't watched a high school baseball game in a long time, other than a few highlights on the local news. But I don't know that they're playing the game that way at that level. But once they get to the minors, that's when that's when you need to influence these guys. Have a good day, Dave Guyette. Good to have you here as always. What's up, Carl got here? The Cubs team was cheated. I need a little context there. That Cubs team was cheated. Which one are we talking about, Carlos? We talked about Derrick was there in the early 90s. They'd won a division championship in 89 under Don Zimmer and lost to the Giants, but I don't know that you're going back that far. Oh, the strike year. Right. A lot of teams are cheated in the strike year, unfortunately. Look at the Montreal Expos had the best team in baseball, and a strike year probably sent them packing to Washington. They had the best team in baseball. Again, we don't have a crystal ball, but they're likely were heading to the World Series. The Yankees were in the same position. Felipe Alou was a great manager for Montreal, and when they came back from the strike, they broke the team up. Great players, Walker, Grissom, Pedro. Best team in baseball in 95 was the Expos. Now, the Cubs were very good too, and as Derrick said, he really felt cheated in the second half when it went on strike. And he was a young guy trying to accomplish or to establish himself and didn't get a chance. And I'm sure it hindered his career. It certainly hindered his career with the Cubs as he was non-tendered, as he said. So strikes are not that good, I don't think. Yeah, Yankees were very good that year. Buck Showalter and Gene Michael had rebuilt that team with George suspended. I'd like to remind my Yankee brethren who espouse all things George Steinbrenner and what a wonderful man owner he was. Well, look at in the 90s, Yankees were built with George away from the team. They were atrocious for 15 years. Maybe not quite 12 years, 13 years. When he got suspended, and Gene Michael was running the show, and he hired Buck Showalter, that's when they got good again. Of course, first thing George does when he comes back is fire Buck. Worked out okay. But next week's guest, guys, good. Thank you for bringing that up, Dave Guyette. My guest next week will be Dan Epstein. Dan Epstein is a prolific writer. He's written for, let me just bring him up here quick. I meant to get this ready. I can tell you that he's got a new book out right now called Thurman and Me. He co-wrote with Ron Bloomberg, and I am in the middle of it right now, and it's a great read, guys. If you're a Yankee fan, or even not a Yankee fan, if you're just a fan of 70s baseball, read Dan Epstein's books. He has a couple of tremendous books about the 70s I can tell you about. Stars and Strikes, which is the story of the 1976. The subtitle is Baseball in America in the Bicentennial Summer of 1976. It's a tremendous, tremendous book. He's got another book from the 70s that is probably my favorite book of all time. I should have put this on my other screen so I could have shared it with you guys. But it's Big Hair and Plastic Grass, a funny ride through baseball and America in the swinging 70s. Dan grew up in that era. Dan has written for Rolling Stone. Dan has written for some other huge outlets professionally. Plus, he's got a bunch of books on a bunch of different topics. He's got a book about Buck Owens, for crying out loud. He's got a book with Ron Bloomberg and Thurman Munson now. He's got several books about the 70s baseball. Great stuff, I'm telling you right now. Unbelievable stuff. Donnie Baseball, so close. Yeah, I know. It was sad. If you're saying what good deal about Dan Epstein, yes, Dan Epstein's going to be a fun interviews next week, guys. Guys, I'm going to see you. I'm out of here for now. I'm going to be on Sunday with my Stream of Consciousness show. As I said, Jim Beringer will be on to talk NHL hockey. We're getting ready to start the semifinals this weekend. I'm not sure if they'll have kicked off before we chat. I think they might kick off Saturday. We'll talk NBA playoffs. We're going to talk Major League Baseball. Carlos, be here because we're going to talk a lot of NBA awards, and I know you're going to want to talk about those. And Major League Baseball and whatever might be going on in the NFL. If it's probably Aaron Rodgers news, I may not even talk about it. But Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk. You guys have a great Friday. I'll see you in a few minutes on Mac and Jack. Have a great weekend.
See right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, you guys any